agree with you. Voting yes on this bill would be a mistake because right now this bill is a disaster. This would make it even worse. But how would anybody trust their promises for the future if what's happened with this?
I gave Rand Paul such a hard time for so long about him really digging in his heels on this. But what he saw that I couldn't see is that his colleagues aren't conservatives. They're not Republicans. That they were going to stand up for all this Medicaid funding, this gigantic growth in Medicaid. It's the largest insurer in the world now. It's bigger than the national health system in Britain. And he knew early on that they would end up doing it.
Herman, you are shaking your head. You're nodding your head. You're agreeing with some of this.
That's because I hate to say it, but I'm starting to agree with Rand Paul. And the mess, I know I hate to say it, the mess that they have now is nothing like the train wreck if they eke this out and send it back to the House. Because the Freedom Caucus has already said we're not going to approve those taxes.
Thank God.
And I saw an interview with...
Thank you, Freedom Caucus.
Dave Bratt, Freedom Caucus member,
yes.
Right? Professor, knows his numbers. Neil asked him, Cavuto asked him, if you get this bill back, are you okay with this? Are you okay with holding your nose and agreeing to this massive investment tax? And he said, yeah, I can do that. I'm thinking, Herman, what goes on? You get to D.C. and all of a sudden all your principles and values go out the window?
29 others aren't going to do that. I'm just telling you. I've talked to some of them. 29 others of the 30 Freedom Caucus members, they're not going to do that. So that's going to be another train wreck.
These moderate Republicans in the Senate, they've gotten everything that they wanted. They've gotten $172 billion for Medicaid, for example. They've gotten 40 times the amount of money for opioid and heroin abuse treatment than Obama promised. And that's not enough, and they're still not going to vote for it.
But Congressman Brett did have a good point. He said that the problem with the current bill structure is it doesn't go to the underlying regulations. That what you have to do is you have to address those regulations or you maintain the core of Obamacare. And that is what's driving a lot of the insurers out of the markets. And that's really a huge problem, not just for hospitals, but for long-term care as well. What we're having is...
So, Michael, the insurers will stay. If they, let's just say they do push this thing through, right. Insurers will stay, and healthcare costs and premiums are still going to go up.
So, Eric, you're absolutely
so mad
in this debate to address healthcare costs. We're only shifting who's paying and how they're paying.
Well, isn't that the problem? Wasn't that the initial problem with Obamacare? They promised to bend the cost curve down, and they didn't. That $2,500 per family that was going to go down, it actually went up.
And the bad part is the taxpayer is picking up all of these subsidies that they want to leave in there, and that's where it's going to be a train wreck when it gets back to the
Right, and the taxpayer is going to have to pay for insurance companies to give my money to insurance companies, which I don't know if you guys heard, but they're doing just fine on their own.
Exactly.
It's gone beyond just a debate between, is healthcare rights, healthcare a privilege. It seems that most people, even if they call themselves conservatives, think that it's a right. And they also apparently think that insurance companies have a right to my money. I feel like I look at this happening, and it's just bizarro land to me.
Obamacare was wildly unpopular once it went from bill to a law, and people realized exactly what was in it. And the problem is the Republicans feel, to me, like they're doing the exact same thing.